Welcome to the Unblock Your Business podcast. I'm Abby Rogers, success coach, business coach and hypnotherapist, and I help high achievers and business leaders master their subconscious habits for success, income goals and, above all, happiness. But success isn't just about mindset or strategy. It's about combining both and sealing the deal with a big dose of subconscious alignment, because our subconscious holds the true key to unlocking our potential. Let's dive in and look at how you can show up bigger, better and more uniquely aligned in life and business today. Hi there. So in today's episode, we are going to talk about the C word, competition, which is one of the first places your mind can go whenever you're feeling a bit stressed or when you're feeling like things are not quite going to plan in your business. It's one of those things that our brain will just start to focus on and start to obsess about and start to make us feel really crap about. And even when we are really, really successful, we can still struggle with those feelings, that kind of unease and anxiety about losing it all as well. So we can still end up feeling really switched on to who else is out there and maybe who's going to steal our crown. So it's not something that ever goes away completely. And now competition is something that we all have to get comfortable with in business. It is always going to be there. And even if you are super niche and super specific about what you do and you are literally the only person in your field, then you can bet that there will be somebody hot on your heels watching everything you do and just copying your every move. Or at least that is what your brain would like to have you think. You see, subconsciously, we are amazing at protecting our territory. We are super aware of threat. We are constantly tuned into anything that might affect our chances of survival. And of course, what do we do in our modern busy world? We equate money and we equate business with survival. So we're always on the lookout for anything that might challenge that, anything that threatens it. And far from being just a bit annoying, being copied can actually really shake that sense of safety and our sense of confidence to the core. And I'm sure you've experienced that if ever you have been copied in any way. So the temptation when we are feeling threatened often is just to hold back and to keep all our good ideas to ourselves, just in case anyone tries to steal them. And of course, we secretly worry that they won't just steal them, but what they'll do is actually go and be better than us. So that imposter syndrome thing creeps in as well. And so we end up telling ourselves that it's just safer to play small, safer to not put everything out there, just in case. You know, our brain's very good at convincing us just to keep it all in. And then often when we're feeling a bit triggered, we'll start to really look out for those copycats too. So we'll become hyper aware and we'll notice every little comment that sounds similar to something we've said or something we've thought. We get really switched onto that. And I've even known clients end up wasting hours scanning Facebook groups or joining lots of new ones just so that they can stalk their competition and make sure they're not being copied. So it can become this real obsession. And it feels in the moment like that is very much the right thing to do. We feel really driven to do that, to protect our brand, to protect our territory. But actually, in reality, it wastes hours and hours, and it's energy that doesn't tend to amount to anything useful. So putting all that emotional energy and time into something so negative and so draining ends up having a massive impact, not only on our mental well-being, and we end up feeling really rubbish, but also it ends up really impacting what you can achieve in business. And it's one of the ways we can end up keeping ourselves really stuck. When you think about it, ironically, you spending so much time and energy focused on what the competition is doing kind of gives the competition more of a chance to catch up and overtake you and end up going on better. So it really is something that we can sabotage ourselves with. Now, of course, things like plagiarism and brand copycats and people who are just copying things word for word and stealing all your ideas are totally something that should be taken very seriously. And it is really important to take steps to protect your intellectual property if you have a brand that you're very attached to. That is not my area of expertise, so if you're in that boat, it's probably worth doing some research into that. But what I want to dive into today is how to protect you mentally from that constant worry, that constant stress about the competition, because most of the time it really is just not worth it. And it, as we've said, can seriously sabotage your success. Now, as we've seen, one negative side effect is that it can eat up hours of time and energy, which might just be better spent focusing on developing the business and services that you want to get out there. Another consequence, though, of caring too much about the competition is that it really tends to skew our perception of the world. And all of a sudden, we can actually find that we are really struggling to come up with new ideas and insights because our focus is just in the wrong place and we're in that cycle of worry rather than inspiration. We can even find that we end up so focused on what other people are doing that we end up unintentionally mimicking them. So it switches around the other way, because that is just one other little quirk of how our wonderful brains work. So we're constantly taking in and assimilating information consciously and subconsciously from whatever we're exposed to in the world. And if all our exposure is about those people or that person that we're most worried about, if we are really focused on them, then what we're going to end up doing is subconsciously bringing their stuff into our world too, bringing their way of doing things into our world. It becomes our frame of reference, if you like. Meaning that rather than coming up with great new ideas of our own, we all slowly start to evolve into kind of carbon copies of each other, which is not great for that originality thing. And what do we need to do in our marketing to get noticed and to get new clients? We need to be different and we need to be unique and stand out from the competition, not all morph into the same thing. So you'll notice this actually with pricing, slightly off topic, but you may have noticed that you're always kind of aware and checking out what everybody else is doing with pricing because we don't want to stand out, basically. Now, this might be a good moment to just mention that pricing and actually charging with confidence is something I'm covering in the membership this week. So if you are interested to find out more about how you can charge with confidence and how you can price your services without worrying about what everybody else is doing, then do check out the membership. The link is in the show notes. Something else we really need to do in our marketing is to share lots and lots of value. So to illustrate to clients just how good our services are, because sharing value is really what provides that bridge between people thinking that your service might be okay and actually really knowing that they can trust you. So when we're in that place where we're not freely able to share our tips and ideas for fear of someone else stealing them, then we're also really cutting off that link that invites clients to take the next step into our world. Retreating into that scarcity mindset breeds more scarcity in our reality. And that's why it's so important to be able to give freely and be generous in our business. It's absolutely true that the more generous you are in business, the more it tends to come back to you. And it's so important to just stay open and abundant in our thinking to attract more of the same, to attract more of abundance, which sounds very woo-woo. It's not just woo theory, it's the way our brains work. We literally have a kind of sat-nav for abundance in our brain that if we think in the right way, then we start to attract more of the good stuff into our life. Now, the truth is that most of the time there is actually far less threat and far less competition than we think there is. Far, far less. So I'm going to take you on a little journey now just to help you understand how your perception is warped, not just by your brain, but also by the online space that many of us work in now. So firstly, from a brain-based point of view, our brains filter our reality basically, as we kind of mentioned. That's because if they didn't, we would just be in this constant state of sensory overload. There's just too much information in our world for us to process. And we would be unable to make a decision if all that information was hitting our consciousness all the time. So our brains have to sort of filter our world basically to make it livable. So we think of ourselves as very broad-minded, very open-minded, but we actually have this very narrow filter of experience in any moment. And our brain matches our reality to what we are expecting to see. So you may have heard of something called confirmation bias, which basically means that our brains seek to confirm what we believe to be true. So if we're worried about the competition, all of a sudden what happens is we notice the competition way more because our brain is primed to pick up every little detail about the competition that enters our world. It's the same as if you've ever been through a bit of a relationship breakup and all of a sudden all you can see anywhere is happy couples. It just drives you crazy when you're in that place. So I hope nobody's going through that right now. I hope that's not triggering for anyone, but that's exactly what our brain does. It just switches onto those things that matter to us most. And when you're in a particular industry, this tends to happen anyway. So your brain knows that work is really, really important to you. So it's hyper-focused on bringing lots of stuff about work into your world, on supplying you with more information about that thing that's important to you, which unfortunately means that you tune into what everybody else in your industry is doing way more than you notice what's going on in other fields out there. So just have a look next time you're on social media and see how much attention you pay to your own industry versus other industries. Now that's not always so helpful, and it's definitely likely to make you think that the competition is everywhere. Now that's absolutely compounded as well by the internet and its wonderful algorithms. So that really doesn't help. Social media companies, Google, even the news nowadays, everyone is intent on showing us the content that they think we will click on, because showing us relevant content is how they keep us going back for more. So guess what comes up as relevant for you? All those other coaches, therapists, businesses doing similar things to you. So your newsfeed is helpfully flooded with posts from that person that you've had your eye on who's really annoyingly similar to you, because Facebook or whichever platform you're on thinks that you want to know more about that. I've had this on Facebook, I still get it. My newsfeed is absolutely saturated with ads from coaches telling me how I can get more clients, how I can get more money, how I can sort my mindset out. No, I don't need any more of that sort of stuff. And it can, if you're in the wrong headspace, it can really start to make you feel that imposter syndrome thing again, and it can really make you obsess about the competition. So I think we have to be aware of this, recognize what's happening with those algorithms and recognize what's happening in our brains, and almost just choose to opt out of that information and say, I don't need to know this. What do we really want to see? That's the thing to focus on. What is really useful to us in driving our business forward right now? And once we've made that choice and decided to pour all that mental energy into creating our own best stuff rather than worrying what everyone else is doing, then we really can start to take off and we can create something that is so much more personal to us and, of course, way more personal to our clients too. If you have any specific questions on this, or if there's anything you want to share, then I would love you to join me over in my free Facebook group, which is called Unblock Your Business, same as the podcast, and let's continue the conversation there. So I'll pop up a thread in the group and we can dive into this a little bit more, and I can help you if there's any particular part of this that you're struggling with. And if you'd like to check out some free resources to help you build confidence and focus, then hop over to my website. It's www.unblockyourbusiness.com. And if you take a look at the top bar, there's a little label, free stuff. Just click on that. And in there, you'll find access to things like a free guided meditation to help you build calm and confidence. There's a confidence cheat sheet. There's a money blocks cheat sheet, and also a guide to help you overcome imposter syndrome. So if you're struggling with comparison and thoughts about the competition, then that might be really helpful to you. So just pop on over there, pop your details in, download them and enjoy. So that is it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed that and found it useful. And as I say, do come and join us in the free group and continue that discussion. See you soon. Thanks for listening. I really hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you have, it would be incredible if you could pop a review on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or your favourite podcast platform. And if you want to dive deeper, you can find me in my Facebook group Unblock Your Business or at www.unblockyourbusiness.com.